What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined by my dad, Sean, and today at Reactions to the Classics, we are up to the year 2011 in our top 10 albums by year draft. If you want to check out any other video in this series, you can. We go all the way back to the year 1965. Yes, so, been a fun journey, and 2011 here today. Some heavy-hitting albums actually in this year.
For sure, big-time heavy-hitting albums. So if you don't know how this works, I get first pick this year, Trey gets 2 and 3, and so on until we've each picked our top 5 albums, giving you 10. Pay attention, guys, because whoever you think won, leave that in the comments below. And also share your favorite albums. You can list them out 1 through 10 or just what you liked. And if you're a patron, remember you get to vote on one of these albums to be in our album listening party that we do once a month on YouTube. Exclusive polls on Patreon. If you want to be part of that, check out the Patreon link below. Trey, I get to go first this year, and I got Bon Iver with the album Bon Iver, which is now just Bon Iver. They've shortened it for some reason.
Okay.
Second studio album, 10 songs, 39 minutes. Seen as a new musical direction for the band. It's not a person, it is a band, although one person really does.
Yeah, Justin Vernon is
the leader, but they do consider themselves a, quote, band. 1 Grammy for Best Alternative Album. Number 1 in Norway, number 2 in the U.S. Paste and Pitchfork Album of the Year. Standouts are Perth and Holocene, but the whole album is just a vibe, man, for lack of a better word.
No, I think Bon Iver is so talented being able to really deliver some just very beautiful soundscapes.
Never listened to him before this album.
No, and some fantastic lyricism as well. Very emotive, and I was a big fan of that record. It would have been on mine if you hadn't taken it. I'm going with one of my probably 3 favorite bands of all time coming here.
Wow.
The California post-hardcore outfit Touche Amore, Parting the Sea Between Brightness and Me. This is a desert island disc for me right here.
Wow.
It's only about 20 minutes.
Yes, it is.
Man, discovered this record a few years after it released in about 2014 when I was in college, and I've loved the band ever since. Seen them many times live. Met Jeremy Bolm, their lead singer. One of the nicest guys that's in the entertainment world I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. This was recorded live in only 5 days to keep that raw sound to it. There's only 1 song on here that's even in the 2-minute mark.
Yeah.
They just keep it short, sweet, to the point, man. As you'd expect, kind of with post-hardcore. Just the rhythm section on this, Elliot behind the drum kit is great. This is not an album for everybody, man. With the vocal style, you might be turned off by it, but hey, give it a fair shake, and it's only 20 minutes long.
I listened to it. It would have made my honorable mention, so I don't have the same connection to it emotionally as you do, but yeah, it's a good album.
But check out Tilt, Amends, and Home Away From Here. And then my second pick is going to be a band that's very related to Touche Amore. It's going to be La Dispute's Wildlife, their 3rd record, actually charted at 135 on the top 100, and their debut album appeared on my list back in 2008. Yep. Again, seeing these guys many times live, they put on an incredible show. Jordan Dwyer, the front man, kind of has a bit of a spoken word / unique singing style, and man, on this one we got a lot of references to the band's hometown of Grand Rapids, and it does a lot of themes of that, but this is a heavy listen, y'all. It focuses on personal loss, anger, despair. Check out the track King Park, one of the best albums of the decade in my opinion, and it's an absolute gut punch. Edward Benz is great, and the band itself described the tracks as a collection of unpublished short stories from a hypothetical author, complete with the author's notes and sectioned thematically by the use of 4 monologues. So definitely a full front to back.
It's a lot of work, man. A lot of work. All right, well, I'm gonna go with Fleet Foxes' Helplessness Blues, their 2nd studio album, nominated for a Grammy for Best Folk Album, went to 4 in the U.S. The only album with Josh Tillman, a.k.a. Father John Misty, Robin Pecknold in top form. Trey, whole album, once again, is a vibe. It's kind of a theme for me this year. I mean, obviously, their debut album was fantastic. This one, we have a full album or an album review up of, but I know you saw them a couple months ago, and you told me they sounded every bit as good in person as they do on the albums, and that's the mark of true artists, man.
100%.
And definitely a different kind of thing from this time in music. You know what the Fleet Foxes were putting out.
Yeah,
really
modern folk sounding music. Like it doesn't get any better than Fleet Foxes.
No, it definitely doesn't. Another album I did a review of, PJ Harvey, Let England Shake, comes in as my 3rd album. A studio album, written over a 2.5-year period, voted Album of the Year by 16 publications and won the Mercury Prize. It's recorded in a church over 5 weeks, which gives it an interesting sound. She played the auto harp on a lot of the songs, varied instrumentation. No real phase from me. I mean, the title track, The Glorious Lands, and the words that maketh murder would probably be the standouts. But once again, this album's really meant to be listened to front to back.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave that a shout. It probably would have made my list as well.
Okay.
And again, shows PJ Harvey changing her sound so much from the 90s all the way.
Yeah.
She had so many great releases in the 2000s and now already in this decade, right? I really think she. I mean, I don't know. I probably have 8 or 9 of her releases at 4 out of 5 stars or more for me. So I really think she is one of the greats of all time.
She's a criminally underrated artist and one that doesn't have much popularity at all here in the States. A lot of people don't even know who she is. But yeah, you made a good point. She's reinvented herself time and time again. Trey, what do you got at number 3?
Going up next is going to be rapper Danny Brown.
Never heard of him.
Triple X or 30. He came out. This came out when he was 30. This is his second record, 63 on Pitchfork's list of the best albums of the decade. Brown himself noted that this was his attempt at, quote, experimenting and seeing how far he could push listeners with his music. And while he was recording the record, he was listening to a lot of Joy Division. His favorite album of all time is actually Love's Forever Changes back. So, not maybe what you'd expect, but he's very well versed musically. And that is shown kind of in the samples and just in the just in his music in general. And he came in, Dad, with the idea he wanted this to be critically acclaimed, and hey, it ended up being it. Just the way the album's structured in 2 halves, showing a man that's diving into drug abuse and mental illness and just going off on the wrong path. And then halfway through the album, it kind of switches and looks at Detroit, where he's from, and just the inner struggle of that. Okay. So you got a little bit of everything, some conscious hip hop and some different types of tracks as well. And then my next pick is going to be The Weeknd's House of Balloons, which is technically a mixtape, but hey, it's our list. I'm gonna go with it, man. It's 50 minutes long. This was very, very influential in the coming decade on the R&B scene and just the pop scene in general. And it was released for free on his website, and it ended up getting picked up a lot of these songs for like commercials, and people are all like, "Oh, I wonder who this is," and it's The Weeknd. Who is this? And it's funny, 12 years later, The Weeknd's just wrapped up a stadium tour, the second most listened to artist on Spotify behind Ed Sheeran, unfortunately. But this was recorded entirely in Abel's place of Toronto, with production primarily handled by him as well. It explores drug use experiences with love, heartbreak, kind of a standard affair for The Weeknd right here. The title track and The Morning are highlights for me.
Yeah, and we've got a full album reaction of that one. Speaking of full album reactions, I just did one last month to this album, and I'd never heard it, and it's absolutely fantastic. We got Elbow, Build a Rocket Boys, 5th studio album, nominated for the Mercury Prize, 2 in the UK. Neat Little Rose, Lippy Kids is outstanding. That's where the title of the album comes from. Very somber, though, guys. I mean, this album is very somber. Guy Garvey, of course, the leader of Elbow, said that his life was going really good at this time, so he had to look elsewhere for inspiration for lyrics because he was too happy and he couldn't write them out.
Interesting. You would think he'd be going through a tough time.
No, exactly. So it's just a fantastic album, man, start to finish. And then I'm going to end mine out with M83, Hurry Up, We're Dreaming.
Man, this might have been on my list. It definitely would have been in my honorable mentions, but you took it.
I took it, man. 6th studio album. They're a French electronic band, double album. I mean, they're really one guy and sort of, but prior to recording the album, M83 frontman Anthony Gonzalez moved from France to LA, Los Angeles, giving him inspiration for writing the album. He also toured with one of my favorites and somebody we saw in concert last month, The Killers, Depeche Mode, and Kings of Leon before recording. Also influenced the album. He also cited the ambitiousness of albums such as Melancholy and The Infinite Sadness by the Smashing Pumpkins, which was number 1 on my list for that year, as the reason Hurry Up, We're Dreaming was made as a double album. He said he created the album to remember his childhood. Highlights are intro and outro, which you did song reactions to both of those. Midnight City, Reunion, and Wait. Hey, it's a double album, guys. I can have 5 favorites.
No, I'm glad that you put that on here, and yeah, it is a very nostalgic type of a record, and a bit uplifting. Quite a contrast from that Elbow record. So
yeah. Maybe you should listen to Elbow and then go ahead and listen to this before you end your evening.
So yeah, I mean, Midnight City, one of the great songs of the decade, in my opinion, as well. And I'm gonna finish my list out with Kendrick Lamar, Section 80, another gentleman I recently saw in concert. A lot of these.
We don't go to a lot of concerts, I swear to you. It just happens to be there. They're all popping up.
This was his debut major studio release. Prior to this, he was Kendrick was gaining some steam with mixtapes he was releasing. It went to 113 on the chart. Since then it has been certified gold, is selling over 500,000. But hey, small beginnings, man. Started week 1 selling like 6,000 copies, and going from there. Most of the album was written in his mother's kitchen and on the tour bus. He wanted to create the album to discuss his generation. As such, he notes the crack epidemic as Kendrick grew up in Compton, California. He's got a unique perspective on that and kind of the war on drugs. So he talks about Ronald Reagan a lot. Highlights for me are High Power, F Your Ethnicity. The opener is great. Keisha Song, which we did a reaction to.
We did.
ADHD and Ronald Reagan era. This is interesting because, Kendrick would go on to do much better work than this. And yet it's always cool to see artists kind of at their beginnings still finding themselves and hearing them in a way you wouldn't hear them afterwards.
Agreed, definitely. Now we go to honorable mentions. One that almost made it for me, the Civil Wars, Barton Hollow, country duo, so good, so highly acclaimed. We got Florence and the Machine, Ceremonials, Bomb the Music Industry, Vacation, Arctic Monkeys, Suck It and See. They just could not ever attain, so far for me, the heights of their debut. Frank Turner, England, Keep My Bones, a totally English album, yet I still vibe with it. The War on Drugs with their debut, Slave Ambient, Destroyer Kaput, Real Estate Days, my man Jason Isabel, and the 400 unit, Here We Rest. He may be making an appearance very soon. The Black Keys, El Camino, I do have an album reaction to that. Cut Copy, they were high on a previous list of mine.
Yeah.
Zonoscope, Drive By Truckers, they appear to get here every year. These guys are highly prolific. Go Boots, one that you're going to surprise you, Trey. Beyonce.
Okay.
Her album 4.
Let's go.
Something I thought I would never utter.
I only got a couple more. St. Vincent, Strange Mercy was the final cut for me. Annie, again, continuing her string of really good records. And then Car Seat Headrest, Twin Fantasy, is, I know, high on a lot of people's list. I was a little more on it.
I was a little more on it too. I'm sure, Trey, you got a lot of these in honorable mention. I just steal them all because I list them out before you do. So.
And of course Drake's Take Care, which again I think is a pretty overrated album. But hey,
I did listen to it. It's fine.
But with that said, let us know your winner of the draft today, as well as your favorites on from 2011. Are there some from our list? Are there some that we didn't mention? Maybe we haven't heard. Let us know in the comments below, and we will be back next week with the year 2012. Just might be a record that appears on this back thing here, which Sean might be blocking. But hey, that'll be a nice preview for next time. There's a minivan. There's a minivan. Yeah. But with that said, y'all, thanks for going on this journey with us. It's been fun, and we'll see you next time.